Hi there guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro magazine thing. Because this time we're going to be covering Valkyrie Magazine Volume 1, Issue 1, the very first issue of one of my favourite mid-90s role-playing magazines, as we shall see as we look through it. Before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my patrons, who are wonderful, wonderful people who make all of this possible, so I'd like to thank them from the absolute bottom of my heart as usual. Their efforts are so much appreciated by me. Now if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, and I sure wish you would, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to see the Patreon exclusives we put up over there, or one of the other levels we've got, then the Patreon's in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Valkyrie Volume 1, Issue 1. So, this is Valkyrie Magazine, Volume 1, Issue 1 from September 1994. Now, this is the first issue of Valkyrie, which hung around for a couple of years. I know they reached Volume 2. I think they got entirely through that. Maybe they went on to Volume 3 as well. I don't remember. The magazines are somewhere else. But this was a bit of a different type of role-playing magazine at the time. The older role-playing magazines that we've seen, we've covered old issues of White Dwarf and Fantasy Interactive and all that kind of stuff, were very much based around articles for each independent role-playing game. So you get a city for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, you get an adventure for Call of Cthulhu, you get an adventure for Traveller, you get a world for Star Frontiers, and so on and so forth. It would cover a particular game. It would perhaps try and group games together. Star Frontiers and Traveller obviously got clustered together. But it would focus on independent games. The magazines which came out round about the mid-90s were more based on role-playing as a hobby. So, while you might get an article on writing adventures in fantasy, or how to deal with your players, very high up level, they wouldn't focus on a particular game. Valkyrie did all that as well, focusing on the role-playing side of things, lots of news in here, but also did articles on particular role-playing games. Now, while we've got a massive list of role-playing games on the cover here, these aren't all the ones that they're covering inside with their own articles. There's a lot of these which are just being covered in news and short reviews. But there's a lot in there, as you can see, and a very nice cover image. I'm guessing that's some kind of Dungeons and Dragons type thing, somebody fighting a big underwater lizard with a sword. Opening up, we see the UK base of this, because we're going to see a lot of Slay Industry stuff from Nightfall Games, but a lot of other UK-based stuff as well. And the sense of humour and the articles within it are very UK-based. Now, something I've got to point out as well, amongst the credits here, art editor Stig, typesetting design is Stig as well. Now, one of the magazines we covered, I think it might have been Games Master magazine, had images of somebody they called Stig. And I can only guess that he moved on. I have no idea who he is. I also see that news is Angus Abramson, who is still around in the hobby today. Does lots of supporting of people doing Kickstarters with different role-playing games. Lovely, lovely guy. I've spoken to him a couple of times online. Now, we've got a contents page talking through what's going to be in it. And we go straight on to industry news. And this is absolutely packed. So we've got stuff from Iron Crown Enterprises, Steve Jackson Games, Heartbreaker, who are the guys who did Mutant Chronicles, Grenadier Miniatures, Chaosium, Fazer, Ionis Publications talking about Project ACO, a very rare role-playing game I've covered on the channel. We've got Wizard of the Coast talking about their stuff, Mayfair Games, Chameleon Eclectic, makers of Millennium's End and Psychosis, TSR, talking about Dave Zeb Cook leaving and going to work in video games. We've got Palladium Books, Art-Algerian Games, announcing the birth of Cody Kevin Pondsmith, who was born on the 5th of March 1994, to Mike and Lisa Pondsmith. I think I've spoken to Cody one time. I've spoken to one of Mike's sons, so I can only guess it's Cody, but perhaps he's got more than one. About the stuff I've done for Cyberpunk a couple of times. Anyway, carrying on, we've got West End Games, we've got Task Force Games, White Wolf, talking about the Tenocracy Iteration X for Mage of the Ascension. And we've got an advert here for Tales of Gargering. Now this I do not remember, and a search online I couldn't find out much about it at all, which is really sad because I often talk about Slay Industries being my local game. because it was developed in Paisley, which is only about sort of 15 to 20 miles from where I am. The headquarters of Nightfall Games is now in Cumnock, which again isn't that far from where I am, and again about sort of 10-15 miles. But this is Sanctuary Games, the Whitworth Building, Nell Technology Park, East Kilbride. So another Scottish game company. I have no idea what happened. I can read up on the authors of it, who only were involved in this game. I can read up the basics of it, but I know nothing else about this game, and I'm sad, because I really like supporting Scottish stuff, obviously. My local guy's done good. And we're on to the first article, which is just a list of cards. The unlimited card listing for Magic the Gathering. So we've got a couple of pages there just listing all the cards which are out. We've got an advert for Hobby Games, UK's leading distributor. An article on the anti-libertarian nature of Cthulhu Worship. An article appeared in the March 1926 edition of Call to Arms. An adventure for Kult, the Damnation Chain. Basically in this one the players attend a party where a woman gets attacked because she has a magical item. It's all connected to some Satanists who had a falling out. One of the Satanists, because their lover has now going out with a different Satanist, called up basically the religious moral majority type people, the satanic panic people, out after the other Satanist, and there's all sorts of trouble. The magic items ended up on the open market, but this person's ended up with it. So the players get involved. An interesting adventure. Again, I haven't covered Kult yet, so I don't know how accurate it is to the lore, but it seems quite a fun way of getting involved. Advert for various miniatures, including a very weird picture of Cthulhu. That doesn't look like Great Cthulhu at all. Anyway, carrying on. Dark side of the game, talking about generic fantasy, playing darker characters if you want to play evil characters, etc. Operation Phoenix, a Star Wars adventure. Now, this is quite fun. The players are sent to a space station where an arms fair is happening, because there's the unveiling of the D-Wing Phoenix starfighter, which the company that's making it wants to market as a replacement to the outdated TIE Fighter to the Empire. But the players obviously want to destroy the image of this ship, perhaps steal it, perhaps sabotage it, whatever. So they've got to go into this arms fair, pretending to be whatever, to get access to it. I will note as well that these boxed out areas decide to or tell you about each game as you go through. I really like that. There's a bit of a text error there, editing error. And one of the things I do like about this is it talks about the space station looking like Pac-Man. And I thought it meant it was going to be a disc with a wedge removed. And the image shows it literally looks like Pac-Man, a sphere with a wedge removed, which I liked. I also like the look of the D-Wing Interceptor. Kind of cool. Talks through being able to call in reinforcements, whatever they want to do. For AD&D, we've got an article on slavers, basically setting it up, sort of starting a campaign with the players being on a boat and having everything happen from there. Very good idea to have a very small area where the players can be set up. The rest of the adventure is leading into the slave pits of the Undercity, Secret of the Slaver Stockade, and Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords, and Dungeons of the Slave Lords, which we haven't covered on the channel yet, so I don't know how well that leads in. Then we've got the massive review sections. So this is where it's more about the hobby. So we've got a review of the Bar Save campaign set, Clan Book Tranmere, Fallen Angels sourcebook for Kult, Sabat Story Handbook for Vampire 2nd Edition, Reformation Coalition Equipment Guide. I think I've covered that for Travel a New Era. Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads for Cyberpunk. King of Chicago for Call of Cthulhu. Infiniverse Update for Torg. Not got around to that yet. An advert for a convention. And I do like all the creatures queuing up. So we've got Dalek, Darth Vader, and Thrud out of White Dwarf. An elder one, Biggles perhaps, with his scarf flapping. I think that's supposed to be Elric. We've got Captain Picard. Don't know, probably Man with No Name. He's got the cigar and the pistol. The Rocketeer, I can see his helmet. I don't really recognise these two. We've got a Canada, with a pill on the back. Frodo with the one ring. An alien. James Bond. Roger Moore, probably. A goblin. And a very badly done Robocop. After them doing everybody else so well, they've got Robocop completely wrong. Anyway, carrying on, we've got a review of Land of the Free for Cyberpunk. Some other small adverts. Karma's review. Central Casting's Dungeon RPG accessory. Again, some small adverts. Games World was advertising and everything around about this time. Sea Law for Rollmaster. The Europa Incident for Mecton. Werewolf 2nd Edition. Digital Web Mage the Ascension sourcebook. We've got a review of Nephilim. The Vampire Companion GURPS supplement. Rathlan War. The Prime Directive, a big review of that, which is kind of lovely. I have to comment, Star Trek has had so many different role-playing games. It's on, its 4th version, and at least 2 of those have had multiple editions. So many different Star Trek games. Anyway, carrying on, we've got Cairns for Werewolf the Apocalypse. A big review for Mort, so that's 3 different reviews we've had for different Slay Industry stuff. An advert, looks like a Shadowrunner on there. Different gaming groups. I looked through here. Ayrshire's My Local Stomping Ground, and there's the Kilmarnock War Games Club, which I believe is still going. No mention of my hometown ones, though. No really big ones up in Glasgow that I recognise. We've got a book review section, the Role Players Library. I don't like the way this section's laid out, because it just kind of goes from book to book. I would much rather have some headings where I could see what the books were before I decided to read about them, rather than reading a sentence in before it announces what we're actually reviewing. An advert for the Travelling Man. Some other small game shops. The Osprey Nationals 94, winner organised by the Pinner War Games Club. Middle-earth played by Mail. Got advert for a review of video games. They keep the computing side different. And we've got, Al-Qadim, The Genius Curse. We can see how dated that looks compared to some of the other games, where they still look pretty dated compared to what's available now. The jump from 2D to 3D is just massive. Robinson's Requiem. And System Shock. A game which I believe has been remade quite recently. On different miniatures. Alternative Armies, I remember, which was Napoleonic elves, dwarves, orcs, etc. I really quite liked the look of that. I was sad that it was just a war game and not a role-playing game. I would have loved to have seen that world fleshed out into a role-playing game. Copeland's Models, Grenadier UK, Grendel, Ground Zero, Harlequin Miniatures, Heartbreaker, Lancashire Games, Ralpatha, and Snapdragon Studios. An advert for some miniatures there. And on the back, a big advert for Nephilim. Some excellent stuff in there. While there's only a couple of adventures, the rest of the articles are really pretty interesting. As I said, I think Valkyrie got it right, where Games Master International didn't have a lot to come back to. While you read the news, you read stuff interviewing role-playing producers and things, which was kind of interesting. Didn't really want to go back to it. I wanted material for my games, because that's where I was having fun. So, that was Valkyrie Magazine, Volume 1, Issue 1. And it's some great stuff in there. I really like Valkyrie Magazine, because not only was it providing the news and scene of the role-playing industry at the time, like so many of the other magazines which came out in the 90s, that was very much the style that they were going for. But it kept up providing us with adventures, so you could have peeks into other role-playing games. Instead of having to pick up the rulebook and learn what the universe was, you could pick up a magazine, get an adventure which would give you the tone of how the play in that particular game would be going. So useful for sampling games you didn't have time to go out and buy, or the money to buy. Because at that time I was only a teenager, I was in my early 20s round about then. So I did not have the money to go out and buy every role-playing game I wanted. Although it now looks so much like I did, because I did spend a lot of money on them. But anyway, I loved Valkyrie Magazine because it gave us those peeks into other role-playing games, it gave us adventures, and allowed us to rewrite them, gave us information on how to use them in other systems. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. But anyway, as usual, I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.